Hello everyone, welcome. Okay, this is going to be a sort of a funny video because it's not going to have a beginning, middle and an end. It's a whole bunch of unconnected, disconnected thoughts that I have. And each one of them, I wanted to do a video on them, but I don't know how to bring them together, all of them. I think there is a connection, but I can't quite put it together all together myself. So I'm going to ask for your help and see in your comments. Your comments, I always read them, and they're always so good, and so I do appreciate them, all of them. So see if you can put all these disconnected thoughts together for me. Disconnected thought number one. It's unimportant, or it may not be totally unimportant. A few months into the Biden administration, someone noticed the mirror in the Oval Office, and they noticed that this mirror, at the bottom of the mirror, it has a sort of a symbol there. And some connected it with some secret societies. You can see the goat and the horns and things like that. And some people suggested, oh my goodness, this is a such and such secret society. Did President Biden bring this mirror here? And the White House said, no, it wasn't. This mirror has been here for a long time. And it is true, because we can see pictures of President Kennedy there in the Oval Office, and that mirror with that insignia, symbol, being there. So it comes to pass that mirror was brought to the White House by President Truman. And President Truman indeed was a member. I think it is accepted and acknowledged that he was a member of a secret society, and quite a higher up figure at that. So that mirror has been there for a long time, and President Kennedy, and he was there while President Kennedy was there too. And then that led me to other readings about the founding fathers of the American Republic, the United States. And some people point to the back of the $1 bill, which is has similar symbolism there, the triangle and so on. Is there any connection here with secret societies of some kind? I don't know. Okay, disconnected thought number two. There has been, of course, a process of secularization in the West, as we call it, the collective West. I don't like the term collective West, because I think there is a very clear difference between the Protestant North and the Catholic South. I have it that the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century was more than a split on theological terms, that it was as much a different political movement. It was as much to do with, what I'm saying is that it had as much to do with theology as with politics. And as usually happens, perhaps the differences in understandings of theology was used in order to make political changes. But in any case, the United States, which would inherit the empire centuries later from the British Empire, Christianity there is is a Protestant understanding of Christianity. To the extent, actually, that Europe has become practically secularized for the most part, but Protestantism, in at least until now, in the United States, is very much alive. But they do not call themselves Protestants. They go by the name of Christians. To the extent that there are many people in the United States who think that Protestants are Christians and Catholics are not. There are many people who don't think, they actually ask whether Catholics are Christians. So this taking over of the word Christian, which is similar to that of American, yes, because America is a continent. There is South America, there is Central America, but an American, it is understood nowadays to be a citizen of the United States. So the word America has been taken over, and I fear that the word Christian has been taken over too. So that Protestants in the United States are Christians and Catholics and Orthodox are not, whereas in fact the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church was the original church, yes, from the very beginning. So the question that some people may could actually ask if Catholics are Christians is astounding. And anyway, but this leads many non-Christian nations to believe that, to be of the opinion that Christianity is that Protestant interpretation of Christianity, which to the Catholic Church and to the Orthodox Church, for the longest time, at least until recently perhaps, was considered a heresy. So the non-Christian world is judging Christianity by what the Christian Church considers a heresy, which is concerning. But it may give to, misinterpretations of what Christianity is. Especially when they put, it seems to me at times, if I am exaggerating, I'm not doing it on purpose. It seems to me at times that for these American Protestants, that they put the emphasis, the whole of the emphasis is more often than not in the Old Testament and in the very last book of the New Testament, the Apocalypse. But I see that the emphasis is more often than not in the Old Testament, on the Old Testament. Now, the Christian Church accepted the Old Testament as sacred scripture, as sacred history, but it is not the same religion. I think both Catholic and Orthodox and Jews would accept that. They're two different religions. Why? Because there was a clear break there. The Christians accepted the coming of the Messiah and its crucifixion, and the crucifixion is vital here, not just the resurrection. The crucifixion is something that is essential to understanding of Christianity. And so there are two different religions. The coming of the Messiah, accepted by Christians, and the Jewish people who do not accept that Jesus was the Messiah. So there is a clear break here. So to understand for the non-Christian world, to look at Christianity simply by the understanding of American Protestants is to me concerning. Disconnected thought number 3. Just as Europe, from the Protestant Reformation, became more and more secularized through the intervention of many movements, the Illuminati, the others, and so on. Okay, it became little by little more and more secularized. But to this day, Europe, when they talk about Christianity, they talk about Christianity. They don't use the term that Americans constantly use, the Judeo-Christian tradition. It seems that in America, it seems to me that you cannot say the Christian view of this is, but it's always the Judeo-Christian tradition is. Well, tradition, first of all, the religions. Judaism is a religion, and Christianity is a religion. It's not a tradition, it's not a cultural thing. They're two religions, yes, connected, surely, but two different religions. The Jewish people consider the belief that the Messiah came as a blasphemy. They never accepted it. Fine, but they're two different religions in that sense. Now, this Judeo-Christian word, joint word, was never there before. It became popularized in the 1970s. Before then, you would speak of, the Jewish religion, of the Old Testament and the New Testament. But this Judeo-Christian became common parlance in the 70s. The same with the word Holocaust being attributed to what happened in Germany to the Jewish people. Of course, the word Holocaust was always there. Holocaust means a sacrifice, usually by fire. I'm not saying that people did not accept the Jewish Holocaust in the 1930s before. Yes, they did. But the word itself, Holocaust, attributed to, or not attributed to, but this word to signify what had happened, this word became common parlance in the 1970s, before you referred to it as something else. And as Europe became more and more secularized, we see also that in America especially, and everything in cultural terms at the moment to Europe comes from America, the good, the bad, and the indifferent. What has happened here too is that we see a commingling of two things. More and more, until about 6 years ago, in America especially, people felt uncomfortable to say things like Happy Christmas. They started referring to it as Happy Holidays. I think it was actually President Trump who said no, from a nationalistic point of view, said no, Christmas, Happy Christmas. I don't think he was aware of the geopolitical and the globalist understanding of what was going on. I think people now feel a little bit more free to say Merry Christmas or Happy Christmas. But this is recent. For the longest time, people were uncomfortable with saying Merry Christmas. But nevertheless, we saw an uptake on Happy Hanukkah, for example, or other religions. In other words, it was accepted that other religions were to be acknowledged, obviously, and you could say happy this and happy that, but not Happy Christmas. That meant whatever it was. You connect the thoughts yourselves. Okay? But not only that, anything relating to Christianity was uncomfortable. For example, to name the years, AD, Anno Domini, and BC, before Christ, that was changed to the Common Era. I refuse to say the Common Era because I am Catholic. So I prefer to say the year of our Lord, or before Christ. Other people of other religions might have difficulty with that and may want to use other terms, and they're welcome to use other terms, but I don't welcome forcing us to use this terminology. So as we are becoming in the West more and more secularized, at the same time we are giving less and less, we are almost forced to assign less and less importance to Christian terminology, while other terminologies are on the increase. Okay, so that was unconnected thought number 2 or number 3. Another unconnected thought, the censoring of speech at the moment. We have seen with this war going on now in Gaza between Israel and the Palestinian people, that many people have remarked on this, but a lot of the people who were complaining about censoring speech when it came to the woke ideology, whether it was race, gender, whatever it is, whatever it was, they were actually up front complaining about it and so on. And yet when it came to this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, they switched and they now want to censor those who are on the pro-Palestinian, let me put it in general terms like that, side of it. Why? What happened here? I have remarked in another video that there were many people who were against the woke ideology, but they didn't seem to connect the dots, or they didn't want to connect the dots to a globalist ideology. That I think that this woke thing was a cultural war in order to break down cultural cohesion. But that was a means to an end. The end was global governance. And these people seem to think that it was an end in itself. And that is why now they can censure those who are on this other side of the conflict. I am thinking, for example, well, let's go back a little bit. Do you remember Christopher Hitchens? I didn't know him at the time when he was alive. I hadn't heard of him, I mean. But I have since read some of his books and watched a lot of his videos and his debates. And Christopher Hitchens, who died in 2012, I believe, of cancer, had been in England, had always been a Trotskyist, a communist, and never for the longest time departed from that. There are many students at universities in those days, especially in the 70s and 60s, 70s and 80s. University students would be Trotskyists or Maoists or whatever it was. Okay. Many of them, of course, gave up any ideas of communism the moment that they left university and got good jobs and so on. And many of them got very successful in politics. Christopher Hitchens was not one of them at the beginning. He continued to be a Trotskyist. Very articulate, very intelligent man, very learned man. But then something happened. During the Iraq War, he was on the side of the war, on the side of President Bush, on the side of America going to war against Iraq. And that was strange for a Trotskyist. But he gave his reasons and so on. Then he also became very famous for doing a lot of debates against Christianity, not only against Christianity, against religion. So he would be very caustic in his remarks about Christianity and Islam and just about every religion. He considered himself an atheist, and so he would debate anyone who wanted to. But it was all very superficial. He never really entered into the deep questions of, in this case, Christianity. He would condemn it on the, he would laugh at it in, how can you possibly believe in the world having been made in 7 days and so on. That was easy pickings. Okay, so if you, I think he knew what he was doing. He was earning a living. But there were 4 of them who became very popular because of how articulate they were, and they would always win the debates, not against theologians, serious theologians, but any 13-year-old precocious teenager would see them as heroes. And they became very, very popular. And I think that was the pre-woke era to my mind. That was the beginning of the breaking down of the cohesion of society. Ridiculing religion. Well, unfortunately, Christopher Hitchens died, and now we have seen another person whom I used to admire on the similar grounds. Douglas Murray, I admire him. He's also very well read and very articulate, and he is a gay, he's a homosexual man, and he fought and wrote very strongly against the woke ideology. He has many books. You all know of him, of course. Then he went to America, and because he changed so much, I will speak about the change. That is my opinion, obviously, but the way I see him now is that he was, as it were, to be the successor of Christopher Hitchens and to continue perhaps his work. He's at the moment very antagonistic to well, let me put it this way, he's very much pro-Israel and what Israel is doing. And I find a disconnect there. That I can't quite put my finger on. But I think he is the successor of Christopher Hitchens. So he has a goal, as it were. Another one is Jordan Peterson, who also I was very surprised because he seemed to me also very learned, very articulate, very famous, very popular, fighting against the woke terminology and nevertheless now very much pro-Israel. And there is a disconnect there because I told you some time ago how he had spoken at the Cambridge University Union about how the Nazis would humiliate, well, more than humiliate, but certainly humiliate the Jewish people that they took to the camps, and how those who were not immediately sent to the ovens to be burned there, they would humiliate. You remember I have a video about how they would, the guards would give a poor old 70-year-old who was practically starving to death, 3/4 dead anyway, that they would give him a sack of about 100 kilos to carry of salt, to carry from one end of the camp to the other. And camps were very large. They were almost like cities. It wasn't just, one room or anything like that. It was like walking from one side of town to the other. Only when they got to the other side to made them come back again to the point of departure with the same 100 kilo sack on their backs. And he was very moved by that, as we all are, if we can picture in our mind's eye the torture and the humiliation of these human beings. And Jordan Peterson was asking, how can this be that a person takes pleasure from humiliating another in such a way? And nevertheless, the way I see it is that there is a disconnect here too, because he seems to be incapable of seeing the humiliation of the Palestinians now, with no food, no water, no electricity, being bombed to death and being told to go to the south, and then in the south they start bombing again, and so it's like, go over there and then they bomb over there and then come over here and then they bomb over there. I mean, this is a humiliation is not the right word, but you know what I mean. And nevertheless, he doesn't connect that humiliation. Why not? Has he flipped to the other side? Okay, disconnected thought number 4 or number 5. President Putin, in his latest Q&A, the man talks for about 4 hours. This is quite amazing. But anyway, one of the things he said, according to, I haven't watched the whole 4 hours, I can't find the whole one video with the 4 hours in it. I'll have to look a little bit further. But anyway, one of the things that he said, he was asked, what does he regret from, he's been there 23 years, what does he regret most from the time that he came into power, to know what he has learned or what he regrets or something like that. And he said something along the lines of he was too trusting of the West, whom he called partners, that he realizes that he had been deceived in many areas, and he didn't see that clearly at the time. Thinking about Russia, what I find is rather reassuring, as a matter of fact, is that it is a country with a very painful past. Yes, the Soviet Union, painful to most Russians, and during that time, well, before that, because Dostoevsky already tells us about it, but there was a sort of an inferiority complex, can I put it that way, the Russians felt, or the Soviets felt, about the West. They felt that the West was better and so on, and they had this feeling of being, second fiddle, as it were, and imitating. This is, as I said, this goes back much further from when the Russian intelligentsia used to, how they used to look at the French, for example, and so this is old news, but certainly from the period of the Soviet Union, they felt that the West was much better than they were, and there were some commentators saying that this has changed now. The feeling of a certain sense of inferiority towards the West was left there, certainly very much alive from the Soviet times. But now the Russian people have moved on, as it were, and they no longer feel themselves, not to the same extent anyway, inferior in any way. And, this is, we can argue about that and to what extent and so on. But what I noticed, the difference that I noticed in Russia from many of European countries, is that they realize that the Soviet Union, what happened during the Soviet time, is there, but they do not want to erase it from their memory. They are not bringing down statues. They are not saying, well, that is in the past, but we don't want to look at it. It is as if they are saying, on the contrary, yes, this was our past, not with glee, not with joy, not with pride, but this was our past. Let's and use it perhaps to say, let us not fall into the same pit, let us not do it again. And so the statues and the remembrances and the parades and the all the ceremonials are there. For example, in the when they celebrate the success of the Second World War, they go there, they carry the Russian flag, but they also carry the Soviet flag with the communist thing. In other words, they haven't thrown it away. I don't think they're saying, oh, here it is, our Soviet flag and so on, but as a recognition that it had been their country at that time in history that had defeated the Germans and the Nazis. So they are not throwing away the past. They keep it there as a reminder of what one may become if you're not careful. I think that this is what gives them also reassurance, to be able to look at your mistakes right there in front of your face, instead of saying, oh, as we do saying in our own personal lives, well, think positively. No, look at it. Look what we did. Look at what the Soviet Union did to its own people, millions killed and so on. But in other words, the example of the statues, they are there to remind you of your past. Okay, good, bad, and indifferent, which is something that we don't do very well in the West, not at the moment. The bringing down of statues, I don't think, for example, that the German people have come to this realization, grown up realization of this is what our country did, and here it is. They want to still bury it. They want to go completely to the other side of the pendulum and leave it outside, leave it there. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to. No, you have to look at it. This is what, unless you do that, you cannot forgive yourself. You carry it with you there. You cannot forgive, you cannot redeem yourself until you are grown up enough as a society to look at it in the face and accept that that happened. And this is one of the reasons, I think, why Russians are becoming much more self-assured. They have digested their past. They don't have it here, undigested. What more things do I have? Okay, this is rather difficult to talk about, but is the connection that we all have to deal with nowadays with Zionism, anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish, all these things. And the fact, I have commented on this too, that many Jewish people and many rabbis are actually reminding us all, we were not aware, that Judaism is religion and Zionism is a political ideology. And they are the ones who are saying, not in our name. This is not our religion. It's not in accordance with our religion. And they feel very much attacked because they feel that the Zionists are using religion in order to hide behind it, in order to do what they think that they can do, establish their political ideology or continue with it. I think this is connected in some way to what we're experiencing now in the West. About it comes all back in some sort of way to the divide at the moment in the West, especially between the political divide between global governance and realism in the international relations context of sovereignty, individual sovereign countries. which is the divide at the moment. I think all these things are connected, but I don't quite know why or how. So I'm asking your help in connecting the dots here. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.